This is India's first Hyperloop test track. This 410-meter-long test track is built by TuTr Hyperloop in collaboration with IIT Madras and their Avishkar Hyperloop team. I'm Caleb Friesen, and you're watching our weekly Indian startup news show here at Backstage with Millionaires. And this test track is actually part of a much larger 11.5-kilometer-long testing facility, which they planned for the first phase. And this is a huge deal for a couple of reasons. First of all, let's start with the fact that Hyperloop technology has been struggling on a global level. Elon Musk, who first popularized the idea back in 2013 with his paper Hyperloop Alpha, seems to have moved on, and SpaceX even dismantled their Hyperloop test tunnel, reportedly turning it into a parking lot. And it's not just Elon. Richard Branson's Hyperloop One achieved a top speed of 172 kilometers per hour during human trials in 2020, but they pivoted to cargo transportation before shutting down entirely in 2023. So billions of dollars have gone into trying to commercialize Hyperloop, yet no one has succeeded so far. But Indian startups like TuTr Hyperloop, working with IIT Madras, are still in the race, and IIT Madras has the backing of India's Ministry of Railways, which granted them 8.3 crore rupees to make Hyperloop a reality by 2030. And then we also have IIT Madras' Avishkar Hyperloop, which isn't new to this game. They were the only team from Asia to compete in SpaceX's Hyperloop pod competition in 2019, where they made it to the top 10 out of over 1,600 teams. And they're not alone, because Quintron's Hyperloop is also working on a 100-meter-long test tube to validate the technology. But the question is, can Indian startups succeed where global giants with billions of dollars have failed? All right, next up in the news, and coming back to Elon here, there are reports that Tesla is now looking for showroom space in New Delhi. Now, just a heads up, none of this is confirmed by Tesla yet, and we've already had a lot of false starts about Tesla coming to India, many false starts over the years, so do take this with a huge grain of salt. But according to this Reuters report, Tesla is in early talks with DLF to secure prime locations in Delhi NCR. So according to this article, Tesla is exploring premium spots like DLF Avenue Mall in South Delhi and Cyber Hub in Gurugram, and their plan is to build a consumer experience center which would be spread out between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet, plus a delivery and service hub that would be 3 times that size. But let's rewind a bit to earlier in 2024. Elon Musk was supposed to meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to potentially announce investments worth between $2,000 and $3,000, but these plans were shelved when Tesla laid off 10% of its workforce due to slowing sales globally. So why would Tesla consider moving to India now? Well, one reason could be the government of India's new import duties. Now, import duties for EVs can go up as high as 100%, but earlier this year, the government of India announced a new policy that could reduce import duties to just 15% for certain electric vehicles. But to get these benefits, Tesla would need to commit to investing $500 million in India and start manufacturing their cars in India within 3 years. But it's not just Tesla that might be considering this. Hyundai and Toyota are also interested in India's EV space. All right, next up in the news, Zepto's co-founder and CEO Adev Palicha has announced on X that Zepto will soon launch a separate app for their 10-minute food delivery platform, Zepto Cafe, and the numbers here are kind of impressive. Adev revealed that Zepto Cafe is already handling 30,000 orders a day and scaling rapidly, opening over 100 cafes every month, and the company says that their cafe business has reached an annual revenue run rate of 160 crore rupees on its gross merchandise value, and expects this number to hit 1,000 crore rupees by FY26. That being said, though, it isn't all smooth sailing over at Zepto. Reports say that Martin Dinesh Gomez, their chief human resource officer, is leaving after less than a year at the company, and this isn't the first big departure. In June, Zepto lost multiple senior leaders, including Manik Oberoi, the VP of Growth and Retention, Viral Javeri, the chief business officer, and Ashish Shah, the senior VP of Finance. And the recent exit comes at a time when there have been allegations of unhealthy work culture at Zepto. And so with Martin leaving, Adit is temporarily stepping in to oversee HR operations, including hiring. Meanwhile, Chief Brand Officer Chandan Mendrata is also stepping in as a Chief Culture Officer tasked with additional HR responsibilities. All right, next up in the news, a little bit of controversy here. YesMadam, a home salon service company which was featured on Shark Tank India Season 3, got into trouble with this LinkedIn post. And the original post has been deleted, but in this post, one employee claimed that the company had fired 100 employees for being stressed at work. And so it turns out that this was actually all just part of some strange marketing campaign to promote their new mental health policy. But here's what happened. So this leaked or supposedly leaked HR email appeared online showing that the company had announced mass terminations, and the email claimed that YesMadam was firing employees who had reported stress in a survey to ensure a stress-free workplace. And this went viral, and the backlash was immediate and intense. And just as the outrage hit its peak, YesMadam released a statement clarifying that actually nobody had been fired. This was all just part of some social media campaign to highlight workplace stress, and alongside this, the company also announced a new de-stress leave policy, offering 6 paid leave days and a free spa session to help employees rejuvenate. But this did not go as planned. Many people called the campaign tone-deaf and insensitive, arguing that layoffs are a serious issue impacting millions of people, and they shouldn't be used as a marketing gimmick. All right, next up in the news, just a couple of quick updates here. First of all, Mobikwik has gone public. They launched their 572 Crore IPO on the 11th of December, and by the end of day 2, their IPO is already oversubscribed 16.86 times. The company tried to go public earlier in 2021, but at that time they were unprofitable and they had annual revenue of 300 crore rupees, but they decided to shelve those plans due to unfavorable market conditions. And since then, their revenue has gone up to 890 crore rupees in FY24 with a net profit of 14 crore rupees. Next up in the quick news, talking about profits here, e-commerce giant Myntra has reported their FY24 financials, and while their revenue climbed to 5,122 crore rupees, they also posted a profit of 31 crore rupees. And this is commendable considering that they had posted a loss of 782 crore rupees in FY23. Next up in the quick news, Lenskart has signed an MOU with the government of Telangana to set up their latest manufacturing facility in the state, which would receive an investment of 1,500 crore rupees and is expected to create 2,100 jobs. And then finally in the quick news here, talking about investments, GrowX Ventures has launched a 400 crore rupee fund, and through this fund they're planning to invest in seed to Series B stage deep tech and B2B startups. While seed stage startups would get up to 10 crore rupees in investment, Series B startups would get anywhere between 20 and 30 crore rupees in investment, and they're planning to invest in between 20 and 24 startups across sectors like semiconductor, space tech, defense, alternative materials, and advanced manufacturing. All right, now let's move over to the funding news segment for today's video. This week was great for Indian startups raising capital. The ecosystem raised a total of $587 million, making it the second best funding week of the entire year. And of course, this is way above the trend line. So let's look at some of the companies that raised funds this week. The first one I want to talk about here is Mumbai-based cloud kitchen startup Rebel Foods. They raised $210 million, making it the biggest funding round of the week. But the interesting part about this company is that they've raised these funds at the same valuation as 3 years ago when they last raised equity funding from investors at $1.45 billion. Following that, we have a Pune-based industrial robotics startup Haber. They're automating industrial processing like managing water and chemical supply at large factories by using sensors to monitor and adjust their supply in real time. They've raised $44 million in their Series C round. And by the way, we actually made a video about the top 10 startups from Pune. You can find that video in the top right corner of your screen. Haber is one of the companies mentioned in that video. But then after that, we have Bengaluru-based space tech startup Pixel, which is making hyperspectral imaging accessible to businesses through their satellites, their constellation of satellites. And they've raised $24 million in their Series B round, closing it at $60 million. And we also did a podcast with OS Ahmed, one of the founders of Pixel. You can find that video in the top right corner of your screen as well. And then next up, we have Bengaluru-based quick commerce startup First Club, which will be focusing on delivering only fresh items with high quality ingredients to customers who are health conscious and are willing to pay 5 to 10% extra to get those ingredients. And I say will be focusing because the company hasn't yet launched, but they have raised $8 million in their seed round. Now, how did that happen? Well, the founder is actually the former CEO of online travel company ClearTrip, so he definitely has a good track record. And then finally, we have Tiruvananthapuram-based semiconductor startup Netra Semi, which is designing customized high-performance chips for industries like AI, machine learning, networking, and IoT, and they've raised $1.2 million in their pre-Series A round. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you all this week. I'm Caleb Friesen, and this has been Backstage with Millionaires. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.